Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston. We are a church that creates a shared covenant, a promise of how we will be together and support each other in our spiritual exploration. We have a set of principles but do not have a creed. We do not require that everyone here shares the same beliefs. We are a church where you sit on the pew with people who do not have the same answers to the big questions of life. We focus on the beauty of beloved community, the promise of transformation, and the power of love. We are glad you have joined us this morning to ponder our past, to feel gratitude right now in the present, and to reimagine the future of our world. I also want to welcome children who are here with us this morning for our multi-generational service. We are glad you are here.
Celebremos compartiendo nuestras vidas, encendiendo esta luz. My apologies, I think I'm going out of order today. You would think after 6.5 years I'd figured this out. Please join us in our opening song, which can be found in the Teal Songbook. This is number 1051, We Are. Please rise in body or in spirit. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who
Good morning. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are our grandmother's prayers and our grandfather's dreamings. This morning, we come together to reflect on our ancestors, what they have given us, what we have forgotten and may want to remember, what we want to bring forward into the future of our lives. May we take this time to remember, to connect to those that come before us and to what is important as we turn to tomorrow and the tomorrows to come.
I'll invite our choir forward now for our special music. Our worship theme this month is gratitude, and this is a beautiful song of appreciation for the beauty of the earth, composed by John Rutter.
everybody. Today, I want to share a story of my heritage. My grandparents live in Torrecitas in the mountains of Mexico near San Luis Potosí. My mother grew up there. I was born here in Houston, but we visited there when I was in second grade. I saw the struggle they endured in just surviving. I feel like I have a foot in both places. Here, we are in my grandma and grandparents' home with my uncles. It's me as a kid being held by my family. And here is the beauty of the land. In El Cerro, in the valley, with my humble beginnings, my mother and my grandparents' home. When I think of what I want to bring forward from my ancestors, from my Mexican culture, I wish I could bring back the language. It is the first language I learned, but I have lost much of it. I'm interested in learning more Spanish again. I will share a poem here by Irma Piñera, connecting to both my first language, to our ancestors, and to our connection to the whole earth. Una sola nube fue nuestra casa. Nosotros fuimos uno. Alegre fue nuestro canto. Uno solo fue nuestro corazón. El día en que tigres, piedras y árboles, nuestros padres nos dieron forma. A single cloud was our home, and we were one. Happy was our song. Only one was our heart. The day that tigers, stones, and trees, our parents, gave us form. I remember my uncle Don Chon. He loved ranchera music, Mexican Western music, and banda music, which is a kind of Mexican music with wind instruments, mostly brass and percussion. My mother and uncle listened to Juan Sebastian, who performs Mexican banda music. His music is both sentimental and macho. He has masculine energy, but he shows vulnerability. I like to listen to it, and here we are listening to a little bit of it, here to honor my family and the music they love. I learned to play the trumpet and played mariachi band in high school just for a little bit. Something like that. But I wish to continue learning this instrument because my youngest brother, he wants to learn this. And so I'm teaching him even today, just a little bit at a time, so I can remember and he can learn as well. A single cloud was our home, and we were one. Happy was our song. But my grandparents, let's see, today it's just my brothers and my mother who live together here in Houston, which is a very different from the way my grandparents and my mother lived before, with so many other relatives in the house and around all the time. While living with just three in a calmer, more peaceful space, I miss the people that I grew up with. They feel so distant now. Now I have more memories rather than experiences. But my grandparents, my mother's parents, do come every year to visit from Mexico and spend time with us, staying for a whole month in either December or January. So it's either this month coming up or the next month during the new year. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to see both my grandparents. Well, here they also celebrate the Day of Mary on December 12th. They bring necklaces, bracelets, and that are associated with the saints. These gifts represent their hopes for my growth, safety, and spiritual growth. And here is a festival for Mary in Mexico on December 12th. I actually took this photo, I remember as a kid. My mother is off to the corner holding baby Jesus, and we had confetti and just a party to celebrate the coming of Christ and to celebrate Mary and to really celebrate just the time being together. They celebrated here in Houston too. There's a ceremony and ritual at La Iglesia de Guadalupe on Navigation at midnight on this same day, December 12th. There's always confetti, piñatas, and fireworks. That celebrates the honors that the Virgin Mary and the coming of Christ. So this type of celebration is usually held in Mexico when they have the confetti, the fireworks, and the piñatas for the kids to enjoy and have fun. I have my feet in both places, and reflecting on my Mexican culture and heritage makes me feel more connected to my identity, more balanced, and more connected to my past. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos, for creating a bridge to your ancestors. Thank you for showing us the way, for reflecting, remembering, and honoring. And now we're going to stand up. I invite you to stand up so we can move a little bit. We're going to sing a song together, but you don't need your hymnal. You got to sing when the Spirit says. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you gotta sing right along. You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. Let's dance. You gotta dance when the Spirit says sing. You gotta dance when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says dance, you gotta dance right along. You gotta dance when the Spirit says sing. Hum. You gotta hum. Hum, you gotta hum when the Spirit says hum. When the Spirit says hum, hum right along. You gotta hum when the Spirit says. We're gonna do hum one more time, but a little slower. You gotta hum when the Spirit says hum. Let it go. You gotta hum when the Spirit says hum. When the Spirit says hum, you gotta hum right along. You gotta hum when the Spirit says hum. I invite you to sit down. So humming helps us prepare for the meditation and prayer that we are getting ready to have, and a little bit of silence after that. Now Carlos is going to share this week's prayer.
This week, we gather for a service of gratitude. And before we lift up a prayer of thankfulness, we pause to acknowledge the injustices of the weak and the anger that many feel that once again, the judicial system in the United States has shown that it values people based upon the color of their skin. We pray that one day we might live in a world where justice rolls down like a mighty river from a mountainside. For our awareness of the possibility of justice that resides in this world, that we can make with our human hands and our human hearts, we can be grateful. For our awareness of all, we can be grateful. For being alive, for the amazing Mother Earth, for trees and sky and kittens, we are grateful. May we take the time to care for each other and say thank you for the chance. Saying thank you may be the only prayer we need in our lives, deep within our hearts and around us right now. May we feel gratitude deep down in our bones, and may we feel appreciation for this time together. Amen.
Now is the time we set aside to call aloud the names of those we seek to celebrate or memorialize. Into our sanctuary and into a great cloud of witnesses, let us speak our names. And I'll add these. Richard Brostedt's health has taken a turn for the worst, and we send him our love and healing wishes. And Phil and Judy Richardson's son, Sean, is out of the hospital and recuperating at home. We celebrate the birth of Lee Kate Beavers, born October 20th in Austin, Texas, granddaughter of Griff and Dinah Godwin. And from our book of care and concerns, we honor the life of Robert G. Serling, born August 15th, 1923, and died November 17th, 2021. And finally, our thoughts are with these church members: Grace Samborski, Joyce Ambler, Rosita Kirkman, and Betty Patterson. For all names, spoken and unspoken, we bear witness with our care and concern. And now we will have a couple of moments of silence. You may decide to stay seated and feel the chair beneath you while you breathe in and breathe out. Or if you prefer, you could move to the aisle and do a yoga pose. And I might just suggest the tree pose. You are invited to do so. And now for a moment of silence.
Our ancestors gave us life. They fed us. They did their best to care for us when times were tough and when they were easier. And when our ancestors were in need, we had hope. They had a family and community to lend a hand. That's what we want to do today. Today, we will begin our first annual Feed the Community, correct me if I'm wrong, Carol, trek, is that right? Trek to the Emergency Aid Coalition to deliver gifts of non-perishable goods. The EAC is also a recipient of our shared offering this week. The EAC is changing lives hand in hand and serves individuals and families who need food and clothing. As you might imagine, during the current health and economic crisis, many more people are now requesting assistance to meet their most basic needs. In 1983, First UU Church was part of the Interfaith Coalition of member congregations that established the EAC, and we continue to provide financial support. We invite you to make your shared offering to help the EAC assist our neighbors who are now facing greater challenges. Thank you very much for your generous contribution. Those in our sanctuary will find the instructions for text giving in the order of service. And those watching in the live stream will see the instructions on your screen as well. Our regularly Sunday morning offering collection invites us to weave a tapestry of love and action that goes back to when this church was founded by our church's ancestors, drawing a line to this moment today, when we continue to weave a loving tapestry of love and giving. We ask you to give generously. An offering will now be gratefully received. Of this church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives, and these are our offerings.
Our first reading this morning is by Annie Dillard from a chapter called Total Eclipse in a book called Teaching a Stone to Talk, in which she tells the story of traveling to see the total eclipse in February 1979. I lay in my bed. My husband Gary was reading beside me. I lay in bed and looked at the painting on the hotel room wall. It was a print of a detailed and lifelike painting of a smiling clown's head made out of vegetables. The clown print was framed in gilt and glassed. It was a painting of the sort which you do not intend to look at, and which, alas, you never forget. Some tasteless fate presses it upon you, and it becomes part of the complex interior junk you carry with you wherever you go. 2 years have passed since the total eclipse of which I write, and during those years I have forgotten, I assume, a great many things I wanted to remember, but I have not forgotten that clown painting or its lunatic setting in the old hotel.
Our second reading is the poem What I Learned from My Mother by Julia Kastorf. I learned from my mother how to love the living, to have plenty of vases on hand in case you have to rush to the hospital with ponies cut from the lawn, black ants still stuck to the buds. I learned to save jars large enough to hold fruit and fruit salad for a whole grieving household, to cube home-canned pears and peaches, to slice through maroon grape skins and flick out the sexual seeds with a knife point. I learned to attend viewings even if I didn't know the deceased, to press the moist hands of the living, to look in their eyes and offer sympathy, as though I understood loss even then. I learned that whatever we say means nothing. What anyone will remember is that we came. I learned to believe I had the power to ease awful pains materially like an angel. Like a doctor, I learned to create from another suffering my own usefulness. And once you know how to do this, you can never refuse. To every house you enter, you must offer healing. A chocolate cake you bake yourself, the blessing of your voice, your taste, touch.
I invite you to stand again. We're going to do 3 more verses of the Spirit. You gotta do yoga when the Spirit says do yoga. You gotta do yoga when the Spirit says do yoga. When the Spirit says do yoga, you gotta do yoga right along. You gotta do yoga when the Spirit says do yoga. How about clap? Clap when the Spirit says clap. You gotta clap when the Spirit says clap. When the Spirit says clap, you gotta clap right along. You gotta clap when the Spirit says clap. You gotta do art. It says do art. You gotta do art when the Spirit says do art. When the Spirit says do art, you gotta do art right along. You gotta do art when the Spirit says art. We'll end with sing. You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you gotta sing right along. You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. Connecting to the past and the future feels like push me, pull you. I find myself asking, what seems like it serves too few and should be changed? Or what feels like it served its purpose and no longer fits, needs replacing with a better thing? And the flip side, what have we thrown away without realizing what we might be missing? The Annie Dillard poem about the painting of a vegetable clown and how she remembered the painting more than meaningful parts of her trip to see the total eclipse hits me this way. There are so many unimportant distractions and things that we might call ugly that show up in our lives uninvited and take up parts of our attention. These, combined with the needs of daily living, leave little time and space for finding meaning, for finding the connections to people and ideas that will ground us and make our lives whole. And that's why intention and making time for finding meaning is called for. That's part of what we want to do today, is give you a bit of time for that. And it's a big part of what we do at church. When my children were born, I felt I wanted the winter holidays to be more grounded, rooted in something deep, more connected to my ancestors' stories and rituals, and yes, less commercial, less about material things. And I asked my parents and grandmother to tell me stories about their childhood Christmases to explore some possibilities. A few things came up. My maternal grandmother, who grew up in Round Top, Texas, born in 1907. Her parents ran the general store on the town square there, where she cut as a child bolts of cloth for the customers making dresses and scooped up pickles from the big pickle barrels for their snacks. And she's told a story that each year in December, the recently cut down evergreen was in a room that the children were forbidden to go to until Christmas Eve. And then when the doors flung open, she was stunned every year to see a tree with real candles afire. She said she grew up with Christmas being celebrated really on Christmas Eve and not on Christmas Day. And she said that came from her German heritage. And we did still celebrate with our family on Christmas Eve instead of Christmas Day. And knowing that made me feel more tethered to those who came before me. Reflecting also helped me recognize how much I loved our 2 generations so far practice of singing dozens of Christmas carols in 4-part harmony. It was deeply, deeply satisfying, and it still is. It connected me to my childhood, and it was also a beautiful spiritual practice I could pass down to my children. And then you add in my mother's annual sugar cookie making, cutting and decorating that she invited all of the grandchildren to do, and that made it feel more connected to my ancestors. Our ancestors can continue to feed us if we take some time to dig and discern what we want to keep. They can feed us with their recipes, their stories, and if we're paying attention, we can see how connected we still are. The genetic material that makes up the cells of our bodies comes from our ancestors. We might get heirloom seeds that were saved and stored, songs that were sung around the campfire while camping, or stories that we tell to our children at bedtime can be passed down and help connect the new generation to those who have passed on. During the 60s and 70s and 80s, American culture seemed poised to only look forward. Looking at the past was something that needed to be changed, and it was no longer useful. The country's overriding message was one of progress. It could be argued that that might sort of be what the American message is always. The ads were for machines that could save us, make our work easier, that is, if we could afford them. Now it's technology that will save us, but the hopes for progress are tempered with understanding that many are not able to participate, that capitalism with its haves and have-nots has major moral problems, and that progress is limited by the Earth's capacity to provide and survive our overuse. But there are times when only looking forward leaves us bereft and empty and unrooted. We need roots and grounding in our lives. I want to pause for a moment and let you reflect on what meaning and ritual you have that is feeding you, and possibly a ritual that feels like it's missing from your life. What aspects of your ancestors' life do you want to research, explore, and bring forward annually or maybe even daily, like what you say before you have a meal? This may be beauty in the words of the anthem sung by our beloved choir this morning, for the beauty of the earth, for the love which from our birth. What do you long for? You may find beauty like the poet who's remembering her mother who brought flowers to the grieving. Her showing up when someone has lost a loved one, creating generations of love in the world. This is how we give forward, through living our lives and inspiring others to give. You are invited to explore where you might find more beauty and share it with the world or with a friend or someone you love. If you have children with you, feel free to have a chat with them, or a story or memory, a favorite holiday activity. The paper on the pews with the colors and the crayons may be something that you want to color with now while we're reflecting and put into a drawing instead of words. Take a couple of minutes now to remember, to get in touch with your longing and your ancestors' gifts. we are going to take a few minutes, but they don't need to be silent. It's just a few minutes to think and talk to someone next to you, and just so that we don't just move ahead. We want to take a time for you to reflect for yourself. And now we'll begin. This is lovely. This is exactly what I hoped would happen, these conversations and memories. So we didn't take long for these conversations, but I'm a big believer in sleeping on things when they're important or taking the time to share some more later. And you might also think of sharing with each other in Channing Hall or in the courtyard after church, if you wish, although we have another thing planned as well. During the holidays, you might reflect a bit because just those few tweaks and connections made a huge difference for how Christmas felt for me. And I want that for you if you have that same longing for being grounded and feeling more spiritually connected to ancestors. After the service, yes, you may want to share. We give forward by connecting to our past and by creating rituals that share our gifts. We do this at home, and we do it as part of our church community. We've now come to the closing parts of our service. Following the song and the extinguishing of the chalice and the benediction, I hope you will join us to take some of our gifts of non-perishable food to the Emergency Aid Coalition as we trek together for our first annual Feed the Community food drive. And please plan to go with us if you can, meeting on the front steps. And now we will sing our last hymn entitled Sanctuary. You will find the words in your order of service right underneath where sanctuary is in the order of service right there. Feel free to add harmony as you wish and enjoy hearing our voices rise together in song.
Please rise in body or in spirit. We'll sing it through 3 times. Please join. Make us a weary, or a sanctuary, each made holy and loved right through. With thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary. Make us a weary, or a sanctuary, each made holy and loved right through. With thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary.
We will now extinguish the chalice with the words written in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
For our benediction, I invite you to close your eyes and imagine that you're looking at the night sky, the moon, perhaps like it's been full the last couple of nights. As I sit here silently watching the moon above my head, I wonder at its beauty, at its light it sheds, and how our ancient kith and kin on such beauteous nights also sat and watched and prayed in its softly healing light. How many sat and prayed for peace in lands torn apart by strife, or who sat and thought of wives and mothers in its softly healing light. How many in the future will also do this right, of praying for a peaceful world on a softly moonlit night. Amen. Go and be well.
Thank you so much for watching our service today. We're glad you are part of our online community. We welcome people who are diverse in faith, ethnicity, history, as well as gender identity and sexual orientation. There are so many ways where you can get involved in our community, and one you can do right now is by clicking on like below or subscribing to our channel. Thanks for joining us.